with that. And taking off from where I was at, we've got logic, reason, and then the spiritual state. And these three things, we need to know where we stand. What are we trying to communicate? What experience are we having? Now, the middle path of the mystic tries to understand the spiritual, but is rooted in the I will. So it's a personal experience, whereas the spiritual experience is completely impersonal. It is beyond personhood. A person has a beginning, a life, and a death. Whereas the spiritual always is, always has been, and to say it is wrong. To say it is not is wrong as well. I think I read somewhere, when you speak of God, you can only speak of what it is not. You cannot speak of what it is. I think that was some Indian philosophy. But in relationship with what I'm sharing here, I realized with my friends that there is this confusion between which state they're in. And then I have other friends who are not interested in any of these states, and they go in and out of it with relative ease. And whether people understand them or don't understand them, they don't care. And they're just who they are, and that's that. And in a way, it's blind, joyful participation in the world. And in a way, it's like enlightenment. You start thinking about these things and talking about these things and separating these things out, giving terms and definitions and all this stuff. You drain the magic out of life. You analyze the life right out of your existence, and then all you've missed is your life, so to say. So with my friend, the next day, he was excited and felt great and everything because I shared with him this perspective that was understood and organized. This is another thing. Somewhere in this book, Barbra Brown writes about awareness, and I said, now awareness is, I was explaining to Dave, awareness means, I think through her definition, I'm not going to read it or find it right now, awareness is that we have an idea, we express and share that idea to another person, that other person understands it, and that means we have awareness of the idea. Now, if that other person does not understand, then we cannot be said to have awareness of it. So self-awareness is the ability to express an idea to which it is understood from a third party, another person. And that is a topic, I think, that many people come and confront on a daily basis. Am I understood? Especially people who are in charge, people who make the decisions and are the doers, the mystics, so to say. They're immersed in the mystical state where they will and say yes to that willed destiny. Now, the all too common practical everyday consciousness, which is purely logical, they can't be said to be personally willing their life. But the implications of these ideas are what I was leading towards with my friends. the abuse of power, the desire to be understood, to have an idea understood that comes from our reason and mystical consciousness. Our reason, and then be understood by another person. You see, we're compassionate beings. That all too common, practical, everyday logic says we need to get along with each other rather than fight with each other. So the mystic can take advantage of this and say, I will my destiny to happen by convincing other people through their understanding of my ideas. And what I do with my friends is I detach from this, I present it, I place it in front of them, and then they observe it, and I present it in such a way as to say, so what do you think about this? This is interesting to me. Do you have any ideas about this? What are your ideas about this? So I'm actually engaging their reason, drawing forth as from a well the spring waters, the living waters of their own reason. And then we talk about it. Now, this is another thing. We talk about it. I also used another example. My friend Dave and I have studied Joseph Campbell, and one of the guys Campbell enjoyed speaking about, some of the guy's ideas, was Heinrich Zimmer Jr., and Heinrich Zimmer made a statement. He said, the first best things cannot be said. The second best things are always misunderstood. And the third best things we talk about. So what I'm actually doing with my friends is I'm taking the first best things that cannot be said, engaging their reason, which is the second best things, which are always misunderstood, because they are of a mystical consciousness. They cannot be understood in the practical, everyday, logical consciousness. It's not to be understood by the practical. Things aren't supposed to be understood by logic. Things are supposed to be accepted. This is the way it is. This is empirical science. That's the common everyday. Now, the magic and the wonder and the excitement and that thriving vitality that pulses through us spontaneously, that is not willed, not made to happen. It's not logical. And from the spiritual state, it doesn't matter if it is or isn't either, this thriving vitality. See, I'm trying to create an experience with my friends. And I'm using these ideas. And I'm hopefully activating their reason. And yet, it's what we talk about. So we are rooted in the practical, logical, everyday. But there are those that cannot step outside what they are told is right. They are drones. They are herd animals. And they are made to be that way. Either slave or enslaver. Master or slave mentality. There is that which works and that which doesn't work. It's total logic. And I have to be particularly concerned with those types because they can become... Violence is very normal for a logical person. It's logical to act out violently in a situation that calls for it. Now, the mystical consciousness can say, well, I hit my thumb with a hammer, I can keep going because I've got this house to build. The mystical consciousness is, if someone slaps you on one cheek, turn your other cheek and let that be slapped as well. You know, the mystical consciousness can find a reason. Why is the reason? Well, there's something bigger. But putting terms and conditions and definitions and characteristics and categories of mind on the ultimate spiritual is a waste of energy, unless you're trying to manipulate the herd. See, mystics try to manipulate the herd all too often. They revert back to, and it has to do with this being understood and the conflict between being understood by another person and going our own way and throwing off any concern as to whether someone understands us or not. And there's a ebb and a flow between those all too common logic and the mystic. There's an ebb and a flow between those two, and then we go to these larger ideas of the spiritual. It says, oh, it's all right. It's whatever. It doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. Or, don't cry over spilled milk. Or there's all these terms, and there's all these cliches that sort of point the finger at that spiritual in certain instances. Anyway, I'm interested in all these things, and I've been able to share them with my friends and have some good talks about it. But the main point is that in our conversation, we are observing ourselves. We are coming to an understanding. We can be said through the definition of Barbra Brown that we have self-awareness, or we're achieving we're working towards self-awareness. And the practical everyday concerns are fine. They're wonderful. And there are those that are more rooted in them than others, which is just as fine too. It's okay to go your own way. I just try not to hurt myself or others in the process. That's that logical, practical, everyday consciousness of my own. So I wanted to share those 3 levels of consciousness, and how the first best things cannot be said, the spiritual. The second best things are always misunderstood, is the mystical consciousness. And the third best things we talk about is the logical consciousness. And that we have all 3, and we're flowing in and out, and sometimes we don't know we're flowing in and out of one of these 3, or experiencing all 3 simultaneously, which is a bit schizophrenic, but it happens on this planet. And knowing about it, knowing about where we're coming from, what we're trying to express, why we're trying to express this. And this is crucial in being understood by another person. To be self-aware of what state you're in, and maybe there's a why and a wherefore to being in that state, and having that understanding of another person brings a connection. And that connection, not only do we have self-awareness through their understanding, but that connection severs the separation. The separation is dissolved. And that can be said to be the third spiritual state, that where all is one. My Father and I are one. That kind of thing, where there is no separation anymore. All things are just fine as they are. All things unto all things, and and I can have those little experiences throughout my day, and getting all caught up in the common everyday stuff pulls me out. The common everyday is just flowing and speeding past us, and that detachment from our own personhood and our experience of our personal depths, and how we are all persons, and the separation is not there. For me, I seek a day where I have that separation is dissolved on a regular basis, and for long enduring periods of time with my relationships. And I find that there's a lot of people that are very, very threatened by that, because they aren't there at all.